Let me start the recording a second. Yep.
Okay. No worries. Yeah. Yeah. So as I was saying, there is a framework that I will share about branding. But until people come in, just think about what that word means to you. What does branding mean to you? And any sort of apprehensions or challenges that you see when it comes to this field or this topic of branding. You can think, you can write down, you can make some notes or unmute and tell me.
After a few classes of not being able to speak, um, I think just from what I take away from branding, right? Like credibility or, um, like making your work visible, those sort of things. And I mean, I'm really glad that you said that you struggled with it because I was going to say the same thing. I hope then that makes you like a best person to share this because my personal dissonance, it could also be because I'm not able to do it and hence the dissonance or the dissonance either ways, is that I feel like building that has often resulted in fake credibility as well. Like, like it takes away the effort of knowing what's true, what's authentic, because of, like, for example, then you don't have to dig deeper into the quality or the impact and things like that. And I'm speaking from a very social sector experience, right? Like where what sells is what's out there and not really the sustainable impact is what's not out there, but that's not what people know.
Right. Basically, what I'm hearing is you were over promised and what you got was under delivery.
Not
From
really.
brands.
I think that I wouldn't say under delivery, but I would say that it's like there's certain it's a skill, right? Like there's certain set of people who can talk about their work. I let's say two people have done like 70% of the work, right? Then both don't get the 70% of credibility, but like the branding often takes 70 to 100 for certain people, but then people don't actually go to figure out what's the reality. Like I don't know if I'm able to say it or not, but I'll frame it better maybe.
I'm seeing you go from the outwards in, but your first sentence that you said was making your work known, which is inward out. Your work already is there, and what you're doing is making it known. But now you're saying that when you dig deeper, and these are people
Yeah,
who
yeah, yeah,
are,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I think the branding is inward out, right? But what I'm saying, the impact of my dissonance is that that inward out journey for everyone is very different, right? So some people are able to do it more than what it actually is, which then impacts the equal way or like getting the equal sort of benefits to people or those sort of things,
for you.
Right.
This is
Yeah,
your
for
difference.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay,
We
may
will
I
we
add?
will we will address that. That's. I mean, I know what you're alluding to. I don't want to label it as something else. I'll just get some more thoughts around the room. Sorry, who else was speaking? Sorry, I forgot to.
Yeah, may I share?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think just to add to what Ashma said, one, it's our own perspective. So apart from the work part, that's because that's just one side of our lives, right? Personal branding to me is much more, it could also mean the values that I stand for. Now, they could be very, very prominent in my personal life as well. So I personally do not just relate it to the work that I do, but also the other aspects of life. Also, there is a lot of importance that, or a big role that the culture also plays. Because in a lot of cultures where modesty is the norm, I think personal branding and really talking about ourselves may not be the best thing to do. And in other cultures, I think it may just be absolutely okay. So that's what I consider it to be. And apart from that, there's this workshop which is I Am Remarkable, which is a Google initiative, and I just happen to be certified on that. I think that also really talks about how each one of us is remarkable in our own ways, and not just again professional, but at a personal level as well. So that's what I think about it.
Yeah. So a couple of points there. You spoke about the modesty bit. I would like to dig a little deeper where how has that affected you? You spoke on a culture level.
Yes,
How does
yes.
that make you feel?
Sure. I think somehow I will say yes, definitely being an Indian, definitely this is something which doesn't come to us naturally as a culture. Of course, each family is also different, but at a large level, doesn't come to us very naturally. So it did take me some time, but I definitely feel my values is something which has always been really standing out. Now, irrespective of what level was I at or what position, etc., I was at, or at a personal level, I think there are certain attributes which really stand out all across. So that's been something which has helped me all throughout. And now, of course, coming back to the professional front, definitely I think I've started talking about my achievements much more. And nowadays I think there are more opportunities, unlike a couple of years back where there just used to be a year-end appraisal, but now there are monthly conversations, weekly conversations, check-ins, etc. So those become again avenues for us to really share some of the achievements and talk about them as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for going deeper with me because that is a point that does come up quite a bit. And while I do accept that there is a cultural aspect, it's something that we'll have to work on a individual level because the culture is going to stay where it
Right,
is what it
correct.
is, right? So we have a
Thank
few
you.
more people joining in and they might not have heard the question. So today's session is about developing your personal brand. The questions that I asked were what is branding or what does a brand mean to you? And second one, do you perceive any challenges or do you have any apprehensions when it comes to branding? So
So, Bala, I'll go next.
yes, please.
So, I think for me, the personal brand is that, two or three adjectives that, people associate with me consistently. So if they think about Yamini, the two or three that come, top words that come across people's mind should be consistent. And that is what I would, like to work towards. So that's what, creating personal brand for me means.
Yeah. So just from the previous answers as well, the two words that I can distill, and this is very much in line with what we're going to cover, is credibility and consistency, right? These are very important bits. The other thing was, your individuality, your differentiation, what you bring to the table, your individual strengths. So yes, thank you, Yamini. So very good input. Anyone else?
Bala, yeah, hi. I like to go next.
Yes, please, Ashisha.
Okay. So I would actually associate it something with, and I'll take an example of the Tata Group,
You're going to love the next slide. So just
Okay,
continue.
So, whenever we say Tata, it's like, trust,
Yeah.
They just go hand in hand. So I think that's what branding is all about, even when, it's personal branding and, you've been assigned a task or you are a part of a team. There are certain expectations and people know that, this is what is a given. If this person is there in the group or assigned a task, this is a given. This will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good point for us to segue into my activity, Ashisha. Thank you so much.
Okay, great.
Which is we'll just see before we bring it to ourselves and think about branding for ourselves. Let's look at what branding is outside. What are some of the most visible brands we see? So here, what are the first 5 words that come to your mind when you see Tata and Reliance? So we'll do both. You can just tell me for Tata it's this, for Reliance is that. Anyone can unmute and just go for it. So Swati says branding for me is how people experience me, impression I live on them. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. So can I?
So you said
say-
trust for Tata.
Yeah,
Yes. Go ahead.
trust, and I think very society conscious.
Society conscious. Can you tell me a little more what that means?
So giving back to the society.
Yeah, philanthropic.
Yeah.
Giving. Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
People
And I
oriented.
would say that, when I think of Reliance, I think more of profit making organization.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, can I go next,
Yes,
Bala?
please, please. I
Yeah,
don't know. who's
I
speaking.
think when we think of Tata, it's about people as well.
People.
People with integrity and how they nurture their people and how they like to treat people.
Got
I
it.
think it's same flip side. If you look at Reliance, I think the way they interact with people also shows a lot about their culture. Very aggressive, getting
Aggressive.
on top of things,
Yeah.
becoming successful at any cost. I think some experience of that is that, ethics are not, let's say, priority there.
Unethical. Okay.
Yeah, I
Aggressive.
won't say unethical. Let's just say that
Not as ethical.
ethics not on their top 5.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Got it. Anyone else?
So, Bala, I think for Tata's, when giving back to society, I feel compassion towards people, and taking care of their own people is very high.
Mm,
So
got it.
that would probably stand alongside trust, credibility, integrity, ethics, etc.
Got it. Yeah. So from all the words that you've shared so far, right? None of these are quote unquote real things. They are Tata and Reliance are both a group of companies. They should be ideally known for best products, best pricing, most variety of products. But the words that everybody said were the intangible, emotional things: trust, taking care of the people, philanthropy, while aggressive. These are all people related things. These are all things that we have identified in their brand, and we have taken it on, and that is influencing our buying decision as well, right? When it comes to Tata versus Reliance, I don't know personally how everybody treats it. There is a Reliance near my house. It's convenient, so I go and shop there. But I know some people whose buying decisions are very, very influenced by the brand. So the point here being that the entire branding activity is not something that is rational. It's something that really happens on an emotional level, and most of the time it is a little unconscious, right? The brand affects us on an unconscious emotional level, and a lot of the times the brands are not even putting stuff out there that are saying, last year our products were at this price, this year we have reduced the prices, therefore buy. And you don't come and tell your decision for buying one thing versus another is barely ever driven by price. Conglomerate, yeah, Tata, Reliance is about profit. Yeah, it's all about keeping employee at the center and owning the community. Yeah, so we've got insider knowledge about Tata as well. And that also aligns with what you have said, right? They care about their people. These are opinions that we have formed about Tata just by looking at how they put themselves out there. So I'll also show you a word cloud that I like showing people.
Bala, it's not only about how they have put themselves externally, it's about how people have narrated their story externally and internally. Because I'm the 4th generation who has worked with Tata. My entire family retired from Tata.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've come from a town which was set up by Tatas.
Wow.
So hence, when I say this with a lot of data that has come from generations to me.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say fallback is more on Tata than Reliance. Reliance is more about ruthless profitability. That's where, and I've done my internship at Reliance. So again.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have like data points. So yeah, so you're a good person to ask, right? Because all of the things that we shared so far were just from perceiving a brand.
Yeah.
And you're coming up and saying, you're backing it up with actual data and saying, hey, I've actually worked in both these places.
Yes,
And you agree with what else has been
I
shared in
agree.
all of the words that are on the word cloud right now?
Yeah. Reliance, I agree. Somebody said flamboyant. Yes, it's flamboyant.
Yeah. So these are all words that I have taken, for people have put in input these words, and I've created a word cloud. The bigger the word, the more number of times it was mentioned. So for Tata, very clearly trust stands out, right? So
चेक करतो तुम्ही तो पाठवलाय राईट आलाय तर असेल तर होईल मी चेक करतो नसेल तर झालं तर करून होईल त्याचा
I'm going to, okay. So so we looked at that example of what branding is, and we can really see how it's something that happens on an emotional level. And it's what actually is branding is it's a combination of what everybody said, but the best way that I've been able to put it across, which causes least dissonance for myself, is letting people know how great we are based on what they want. Right? There is still some level of tailoring, but it's still an inside out activity. Okay. It is putting your story out there in the best way possible so that people can understand. It's how you showcase your USP, voicing the right message with the right people. Right? That's the whole aspect of is it relevant to who you're speaking to? We're all multifaceted people. We all have multiple skills and strengths and values and passions, and we're made up of so many things. But if we can consciously put some tailoring around that and project what we are based on what they want, that also takes care of, am I being dishonest? Am I putting out more than I can deliver? Am I just creating a sheen over what I am and not really able to live up to that? So this is the most sustainable, long-term sustainable strategy for branding that I've come across, right? Which is an inside out strategy, which is I will figure out who I am, my values, my strengths, my skills, and then I will be conscious about what I'm putting across to people. Because at the end of the day, and this is going to hurt, we all have a brand, whether we like it or not. It's already built. We all have it. Right? There's no escaping it. We're all human beings who are constantly walking around, labeling, judging, classifying as, something I want, something I don't want. So we already have that brand. Now, the entire point of doing this exercise is, are we going to do this consciously? Are we going to build that brand consciously? Or are we just going to let it to chance and whoever comes around is able to brand us? We have no control or say. And what ends up happening is they might have a wrong perception of us. And then the fourth thing about branding is starting from zero is much easier than changing a brand that you already have. So you already have a brand. If we become conscious about it before it is completely solidified, we have a better chance at creating a brand that's more in alignment with what we are. But otherwise, if it's going to be an unconscious activity, changing that later on is going to be difficult. One of the classic examples that I like giving for this is Amitabh Bachchan. Right? Around the time of Diwar, he was known as the
Angry young man.
Angry young man.
Yeah. And that worked because the people who were perceiving him were also really pissed off. It was around the time of emergency and they're like, we're frustrated, but here's someone who is getting on screen and actually, putting a face, putting emotions to this frustration that we're all feeling. Right? But with time, he stopped being angry and he stopped being young. So then the brand needed to change along with that. So then what did he become? His rebranding.
The Big B.
The Big B, yeah. And went through a lot of iteration to really get to that Big B, right? He did some things that haven't been done before. A movie star getting on television and making his big break there with KBC. It came out of really dire straits. So the last thing I want to leave you with is, making a brand from zero is way easier than changing a brand. And Big B is, of course, the most classic example of that. All right. So now we've spoken about branding and the brands that we see out there. And we've come up with some characteristics of a brand as well, which we've heard: consistency, credibility, trust. These are all words that I heard. And then along with that, emotional ability to influence decisions of people who are able to perceive your brand. All of these are things that can be achieved from having a brand. So that's all products, and those are all things that are out there. I also want to talk a little bit about apprehensions. So personally, for me, I felt branding or speaking about my work, I honestly, I felt dirty doing it. I didn't like it at all. It was causing a lot of dissonance. I'm like, why should I brand myself? Right? Let my work speak for itself. Anyone else have this opinion of putting their work out there? Let my work speak for itself. Why should I beat my drum and make a huge song and dance about it?
Yeah.
It's something that I've seen pretty consistently with most of the groups that I've asked this question to, right? What are some other apprehensions?
Bala, I can go. I think it's a very thin line between, creating that brand and actually blowing your trumpet. So somewhere it can be very jarring sometimes. And when somebody, Rashmi, spoke about culture as well, in some cultures, I think it's not taken too well if you speak about yourself and project yourself.
Yeah. The other aspect of blowing your own trumpet is if you don't walk the talk, right? You need to follow through with the brand that you're projecting. You can't just create a brand and then not follow through. And then if you do that, then that causes self-doubt, and you go into this entire spiral of, how are people going to receive it? If I'm not going to execute it, this is going to destroy my brand, and so on and so forth. Right? So there are a lot of discomforts that come with this entire field of branding, and that's expected. So the point or the outcome of this class that I would like for all of us to take away is, one, how to create a long-term sustainable brand by going inside out rather than going, outside in, which is mostly how brands are seen. When I share that framework, that will be clear. And some practical things that we can do to start building a brand. How many of you actually pay attention to your LinkedIn and post? And good, okay. Yeah. How many of you have updated your LinkedIn tagline in the past year?
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you make posts on LinkedIn? Anybody? Good. Okay, excellent. I'll accept that I was pretty bad at it. I'm starting now. I'm trying to build a habit because I've seen the whole aspect of where branding is necessary in today's world. If we need to put our individuality and our value add and our differentiator out there in a sea of screaming people on LinkedIn, one, we need to do something that's unique to us, which takes into consideration our innate abilities and strengths and our unique life experiences. We can't do what everyone else is doing, and this branding exercise will help with that. And two, we need to keep doing it proactively. It's built over time, but it's destroyed in an instant, right? So let's get to building it, and then also make sure that we're following through so that we continue with the credibility so that it's not destroyed in an instant. Okay, so those are some general notes about branding. I will now, let's look at what branding means in a human context. We've just talked about brands so far, Tata and Reliance. What does it mean for a human context? So I like doing this one activity, right? We're going to put on our recruiter hats. Okay. So I have 3 positions that I need to fill, and each position has 3 candidates. So you will tell me which candidate goes for which position. Okay. If someone can unmute and read this. Anyone?
Okay, I'll read it. A senior vice president position with one of India's leading retail banks. Strong experience in the banking sector is a must. Okay.
Yeah, so strong experience in the banking sector. Thank you so much. Is a must. That's the only criteria for this. Here is your first option, candidate A. This is candidate B. And here is candidate C. Who would you pick?
Basis this A.
A?
A.
Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so we'll hire for the next position. Someone else, if you could read this.
A senior position in the IT department of a major manufacturing company. Hands-on experience across a variety of languages and tools is a must.
So now A is out of the picture. So who would you pick between B and C?
B.
B, right? Pretty straightforward. And then the third position. Someone else, if you could read this.
So a senior position with a Fortune 100 company, experience working in MNCs with global clientele is must. Obviously C.
Yeah, by process of elimination, but also it's quite relevant, right? MNCs, you need to work with MNCs. It's a must. So we've picked, and these are three widely different jobs, right? Three widely different jobs, three widely different profiles. But here's the thing, it's the same person, right? It's this is the sort of broken down profile of the same person, and this is what their overall complete picture of their experience looks like. Did they lie?
This will then fit into your the second one, which where you were talking about the AI/ML kind of the.
Yeah. So this all three candidates A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Is the same person.
The same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He fits everywhere.
Huh?
He fits. He would not fit in your first one, because in the first one you are saying that the JD only talks about strong experience in banking sector.
Yeah.
While it does not qualify banking sector, whether he should be on the sales end, on the technology end, or on the financial end.
That is, see, now we're going into the territory of what was not given to us.
You asked us to wear a recruiter's hat. I need those clarity.
Yeah. So I'm a terrible hiring manager. I've only given you this one piece of information. As a recruiter, you would make that decision, right? And this person hasn't lied. They have read the job description very clearly, and they have highlighted what is most important, right? So if this person looks at the first one is like, okay, strong experience in a banking sector, they will put the heading as Saraswat Bank, ICICI Bank, DBS Bank, Barclays Bank, and they have the experience to back it up. They have worked there. There is no lying involved. What they've done is just tweaked what they are putting across based on what the audience wants to see. And we've all done this. We've all done this right out of college, right? Because that's one of the main advice that you get when you're starting out your job search. Tailor your resume based on the job description, right? The way we used to do it was, a little questionable. At least in my case, it was a little questionable. But how to do it in a sustainable manner is just shining the spotlight. Everything is there, but you're just choosing to shine the spotlight on certain things based on the person who's going to be looking at your profile. So that is essentially what branding means when it comes to human beings, right? It's just answering a very simple question of what do you want to be known for? And that is something that is completely in your hands. You can control it. There is no need to allow people to, brand you. You can be proactive, and you can decide what your brand is going to be. Any questions, any comments before we move on to the framework? Also at times people perceive you as arrogant due to it. Yeah, which people? If it's the right people who perceive you as arrogant and don't approach you, good, time saved, energy saved, right? You just want the people who you want to come to you. And that also goes into another aspect of branding, which is saying no is a big aspect of branding. You're not just saying, yes, this is me. While you say, yes, this is me, this is my brand, this is what I am known for, you're also simultaneously saying, no, this is not my brand, to something else. So saying no also builds brand, and that's something that I wanted to put across. Any questions, any comments, anything so far? Good.
Isn't the reverse? I'm just reading that comment by Swati, right, about arrogance. Isn't the reverse also true? That if you don't talk too much, or relatively silent or reserved, you mind your own business, and because I've got that vibe from people where they've walked up to me and said, "You're too arrogant." I said, "What do you mean? You don't talk to anyone." It's like,
yeah, I've been there. That's where it came from.
Yeah, therein lies the answer, right? You can't win either way. So the only thing you can do is segregate what people means in this context. Are these people that you would really like to come to you? Do these people hold the key to certain projects or opportunities that you're really vying for? If not, it's fine. I mean, everybody is free to make their opinion, right? And you'll also understand when I show you the framework. That's one of the main aspects of this. So let me share my screen again and show you my branding framework. So the branding framework has a couple of elements. The first one, as we all said, was who you really are. And some people have mentioned, things like values and strengths and skills. That is your positive core, your brand identity, who you are beyond all of this. And this is where we'll start from, because this provides a very solid foundation to build anything on top of this. This is what makes it sustainable long term, because this is real. You're not making this up. If this wasn't there, then you probably wouldn't have had any sort of positive experiences so far in your life. You do have a positive core, irrespective of what you might think or what you might have heard. You do have strengths and skills that you can build your brand on, right? So and this is also what will make you happy. This is what will also remove that dissonance of, am I really this? And this is also what will prevent you from going into that spiral of I can't walk the talk. I'm saying all of this, but inside I am absolutely panicking because I somewhere feel it's not true. If we truly go in, dig, and bring out those aspects and build our brand on that, that's what will make you happy as well. Give you opportunities to work with your strengths, which you already have. The second aspect is your brand aspiration. What do you want to be known for? And this is the stretch. You're starting with what you have, and you're stretching that a little bit, so that you are known for something. This could be you're building on what you have, your strengths that you already have. You're trying to live up to some sort of expectation or a reputation that you felt good about. And brand aspirations generally come from people, elements of brand aspiration generally come from people that we admire and respect. A manager, a mentor, they say, I really see this particular thing in you. And that strikes you somewhere. You feel good about it. And that unconsciously becomes part of our brand aspiration. And we start striving towards it. So whatever we're striving for, what we want to be known for, which is stretching what we already are, that's what makes up our brand aspiration. The third one is your projection, right? All of this, until aspiration, everything is below the surface. Projection is where people can actually see it. This is what they can see, your behavior, what you say and do. This is what people finally are able to perceive. And they can do this in multiple different ways and forums and channels. Social media, just the way you speak to someone, the fact that you're talking too much or the fact that you're not talking at all of that makes up your brand projection. So this is you, right? And you exist in an environment. There needs to be people in this environment who are now seeing what you say and do. And this is where our earlier point comes in. They see your actions in relation to what they want. So when we say people, think that I am arrogant, or people think that, they think I'm too chatty. We need to keep in mind that they are also using their filters. Whatever you say and do, they are filtering it through their own lived experiences, their own ideas, their own identity, right? And essentially what their goal is. An example for this that I like giving is, you are a diligent, hard worker, right? You take on tasks, you proactively help, other teams with their work. You're very vocal when it comes to ideating, quite innovative and all of that. To your boss, what are you?
Sorry, can you repeat that last one?
To your boss, what are you? You're someone who's very hardworking, very diligent. You're a very hardworking. You help other teams. You take initiative. You're very innovative.
इसको काम दे दो हो जाएगा.
Workhorse.
You're a workhorse. Okay, yeah. See, even in this, there is a little bit of there's a revelation on how you're seeing what I've said, right? In my head, I'm saying this: your boss sees you as a rock star. Isko kaam de do ho jayega. You're dependable. You're credible. You're able to do things. And let's also assume that you enjoy doing all of these things. Okay, that's the main assumption. We're assuming that you enjoy doing this and you're working very diligently. Your boss sees you as a rock star. Now, I know none of us work in environments like this, but you have a peer, and you and this peer are vying for this same position in the company. It's quite cutthroat. What does your peer see you as?
Opportunist.
Threat.
Opportunist, sucking up to the boss.
Yeah.
Right? But have you changed in any of this? You're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Bosses
You're taking the opportunities that you can get to create an image, basically.
Exactly. So that's the important bit, right? Like, others will always see your actions in relation to what they want. So they have their own context that they're bringing in, right? And they will form something called as the brand perception, which is who others think you are. And this is what is formed on the outside. Now, what happens a lot of times is we sort of think only about the perception. I wonder how that person thinks of me. I wonder how I come across to other people. We've all thought about this. We've all had this moment of doubt, like, I hope I didn't come across as blank, blank, blank in the meeting. I hope nobody thought that I was blank in the meeting. We do get stuck in the perception bit of it. And it's not just us. Large companies are also very guilty of this. And my favorite example of this is Byju's. I hope nobody from Byju's is here, because I had a few friends who worked in Byju's, and for a while they had a team that was responsible for going and deleting negative reviews about them. Right? That is a classic example of unsustainable brand perception management. You can keep doing it. You can keep trying to, fix what the perception is. But if the core has not had any sort of examination or restructuring, then this will keep happening. At the end of the day, there's no point going and trying to control the perception. So with this framework, what we can do is we can start with our identity. We can dive into ourselves, figure out what we are good at, what our values are, figure out where we want to be, then think about what we want to do based on all of those things, and then use the perception as a sort of litmus test to see if this is working. Right? This is working from the left to the right rather than the opposite, which is, go out there and be like, hey, see me as this, please. I am like this. Why aren't you getting it? And then also probably cut people off because they have a bad opinion of you, or an incorrect brand perception of you. That's not in line with what you would like. So this is the branding framework. Yeah. Any questions, comments? Just take a minute, read it.
So Bala, I have a question which takes us back to what you said maybe about towards the beginning of the session, which is that modifying your brand image or what you are known for is difficult, not only for individuals but also for organizations and for brands themselves. Now, when I am looking at this slide, and I'll quote my example for and so let's say if my own let's say the closest business associates, maybe with whom I have worked or who I think they know me well, perhaps know me well for me being an L&D consultant or a facilitator. Now here, many of us are in that boat and we are doing an OD program, and the aspiration definitely is to add a value-adding, meaningful, addition to the brand that we have, that we are genuine OD practitioners, and it's not just to boost up the CV or the LinkedIn profile that somebody is writing, I am an OD practitioner. Now, having said the the context or the problem statement in my mind, how do we get to the the right side brand perception? Because people carry some certain impressions about you, and those are very strong because they have seen you maybe 5 years, 10 years back. Yeah. So how do we get out of that old cast and remold ourselves to the new reality which we are keen to build?
Yeah. In your question, there is the answer, which is you've built that existing brand over time.
Yeah.
Right. And now what we are doing is we are adding something, we are adding it, and the thing is we are adding it to our identity, to our core.
Right.
It takes time for it to percolate and come outside. All we can do is put our back into it and keep being credible, keep being consistent with it, and conscious. This entire exercise that we'll do now will be a step towards that. Are we conscious about the brand that we want to project? And I would really recommend you to forget about the perception bit for now, right? Especially since you want to add something new. Like I said, the perception is a litmus test. And this is something that I can share with you after the session as well. I send out something called as a brand perception survey. It's a very simple Google form. You can send it to a mix of people, your friends, your colleagues, people you've worked with. Very simple. What are the 5 words that come to your mind? Or what are 5 words that you would use to describe me? And it's an anonymous survey. So people really are super honest about it. So when you look at it, then you can do an analysis. You can see, okay, here are some words that I worked on. Great. If people see me as creative, trustworthy, organized, fantastic. This is exactly what I've been working on. I've been aligning my actions to be seen as this for a while, because I am that. I've just been putting more effort to putting it out there. So great, celebrate. Someone called me arrogant. Wow, I did not see that at all. What are some things that could be a blind spot? Am I really coming across as arrogant? And that's something that's happened with me, right? Which is I feel like I'm a very personable person and a people person, and I like talking to people. And then once during one of my interactions with Santosh, he really pointed out that I come across as a very cold person over emails, which was a complete shock for me. I was like, oh God, I did not see this happening at all. So that was an exercise in someone sharing very honest brand perception feedback with me. And I know that I'm a personable person, so it is within me. It's just I need to make this one small correction to make sure that my brand is consistent in person and over email. Of course, you can also look at sometimes people will come up with positives that you didn't notice in yourself. And that's the good thing about, soliciting feedback. People see you without your own filters and your own issues coming in the way. They can probably, in some instances, give you a more nuanced picture of yourself. And of course, if people tell you some negative traits that you're very well aware of, you can then also consciously work towards it if you feel like it's coming in the way of your brand. So a short answer being, it's all a consciousness and a consistency game, right? It's I wish there was a formula where you can just break this and announce to the world, like, from now on, this is my brand. Brands can do that. They can do like these rebranding exercises, which unfortunately, because we're human beings, doesn't really work for us. Anything else?
Bala, just wanted to add, I think to Rajni's point, I was just fitting in Tata Motors example in this framework, right? So the brand identity was always commercial vehicles. They tried for years and years. They wanted to maybe position as passenger vehicles. That only happened in maybe 2019-20. So I think when it comes to humans, I think product brands can do that. Brand projection is where we don't go to that level. It's very tough. Brand aspiration and identity are really easier to maybe attain. But brand projection is where maybe we shy and take a back step.
Yeah, this goes back to our apprehensions, right? We don't want to, really make a song and dance about our brand. But this is why this framework really made sense to me, because every time I felt that hesitation or apprehension for myself, I'd go back to my identity and be like, why? It's there. I have it. I'm not lying. I'm not doing anything that I'm not. I'm not saying anything that I can't back up with action or with experience. I have all of this. Then why? So that is also going to be a little bit of a journey, especially when we are starting our branding journeys, that we'll need to go back to the source every now and then and remind ourselves that, okay, I'm not doing something that's, boasting or boastful. I'm just putting whatever is out there. I can back this up. I'm going to go into the comments. Does brand perception change basis your job profile? Depends. It's all a you game, right? Have you changed your brand perception based on your job profile? Because people can make that shift in their head. They're like, okay, this person went from this to this. Maybe these are the changes that have happened in them, or maybe they will start only accepting work like this, or they will only do work like this and not do work like this anymore. It'll change. There are two aspects. People will make their perceptions based on what they want and what they're seeing in their filters, and you can do it consciously based on what you want. I once received feedback.
Hi, Bala.
Sorry, go on.
No, Bala, this is Amit here. Sorry, I don't have my video on because of connectivity issues.
No problem.
Just one question which comes in mind is, so I will not talk about the brand perception as such, but does projection changes basis the culture you are interacting with? And does it has any correlation to the brand perception?
Yes. So when you're saying culture, the phrase that
So
I would
say,
use,
for example, if I'm
environment.
speaking.
Sorry, go
Okay,
on.
so say for example, if I'm speaking to an Indian, now basis the culture, and I was also reading the comments, can totally relate to, where the intent is that, okay, too direct is sometimes perceived as arrogant. Whereas if you are speaking to an European, they would be like, okay, why are you not direct? You want to say this in 5 words and move on, right? We understand.
Yeah.
So then when you interact with different cultures, does it has an impact on your brand perception? Have you seen that?
Should.
Any thoughts around that?
Yeah. The whole point is you should change what you are focusing on, play to your strengths based on who is in the environment perceiving you. Now, when it comes to cultures, the things that you said are a little more hard-coded within us, right? The way we speak, the way we come across as either arrogant or whatever. But I'm talking from a more skills perspective, like in our human branding example, based on the environment, based on who we are speaking to, we can highlight different things. Does our brand projection change based on different cultures? That's a totally personal thing. I've noticed that I have to change my accent a little bit when I'm speaking to people who are not Indian, because for them they can't register, and I don't like repeating myself. So I do a little bit of changing. That's how my brand projection switches, and I've seen people who don't do that. So again, it's a completely personal thing, and it depends on the individual. For the things that you have said, but what we are saying with regards to this framework and with regards to this classes, you should change your brand projection based on the environment that you're speaking to.
Sure, thank you.
So like we sugarcoat it and we were practicing giving feedback. Yeah. And it sounds blunt to them that I'm brutally honest. Yeah, calling spade a spade does not go down well with a lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, and that's a whole other session in itself. So yeah, I hear you, Swati. Give me a second. So now that we've seen our branding framework, right, and it goes back to the brand identity that we already have. So I would like to think about, really take us through what makes up our brand identity, right? So,
Bala, can I ask you a quick question before we move further?
Yes, please. Yes,
Thank
please.
you. So you just mentioned that we must change our brand projection depending on where we are, when you were responding to Amit. Did I hear right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you want, it all depends on what you want, right? If you are projecting a certain brand to, say, for example, at home versus work, there are different things that we want from these different groups. Although we would like to say that, yeah, I'm the same everywhere. I'm an open book. This is it. This is me. There are different things that come out when we are interacting with different people. So a classic example of this is my co-workers versus my boss, right? What my co-workers see is more of my willingness to collaborate, more of my availability to be there for them, to bounce ideas off of me. That's what comes into the forefront, because our relationship, our environment, our equation is different. When it comes to bosses, there is a little bit more polish. There is, I have a point of view. I mean what I say. I execute tasks. That comes into the focus. So it's not really a change per se. Like I said before, you're just shining the spotlight on different aspects of yourself, depending on who's looking at it.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Projection is consistent more or less on the face, just perception takes a toss with a few liters. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to deep dive into our identity and see what makes you you. Just for ease of ordering our thoughts, because the self is multifaceted and there are so many pieces of it. But for our context and for our use today, I've divided into 4 parts. The first one is our strengths. What comes naturally to you? This is innate. You were born with it. You just, we've always been this way. Maybe you are a extrovert, outgoing person. Maybe you're creative. Maybe you out of the box solutions person. Now, these are things that you can really play with your strengths. You can play to them, and this is what really makes you shine. The other part of this is your skills. It's very similar. Strengths and skills can be put in the same bucket, but skills you've picked up over time. Because I don't know a single baby who was born with excellent Excel skills. So that's the difference between strengths and skills, right? This is stuff that you've picked up, you've worked on, you've put effort towards it, time, and all of that. The next thing that goes into your core is values. Why do you do what you do? It's like your operating system. These are things that, if you go against them, you feel a pit in your stomach, because this is not who you are. These are things, when you go against them and that sentence comes out of your mouth, right? You're like, that's not who I am. I don't know why I did that. Every time you go against your values, your gut sort of comes into play and sort of scolds you. So why you do what you do? People generally, I say 5 values is a good number to have, right? And knowing these values is one exercise that I would strongly encourage everyone to put some time towards it. I hadn't done it for a very long time, and that really it was very disorienting for me, right? Because I would feel this voice from my gut telling me that what I'm doing is, not sitting right with me, but articulating it was a problem. So putting those words to values is going to really, really help you and really draw those boundaries for yourself, which again is an excellent branding exercise in saying no. This is not in line with my values, and therefore I'm not going to partake in this opportunity. I'm not going to project, or I'm not going to put effort into projecting my brand to such and such brand environment. And the last one is passions. What do you enjoy doing? What puts you in flow? What causes you to lose track of time? What would you rather be doing if money was not an object? Right? These are all questions that you can use to tease out what your passions are. So these four things are essentially what makes you you. And these are things that we already have in ourselves. And this is what makes up that very strong foundation on which your brand can be built. Right? Any questions? I'll pause for any thoughts.
Are there any self-assessments to get this, or do we just?
I'm glad you asked. The next one is going to be, it's not, so here's the thing, it's not an assessment is usually, something you measure, right? In this case, there is a lot of discovery. So I have some reflection tools and some introspection tools that we can use. We'll go through a few of them to uncover our values, strengths, passions, and skills. And then we'll look at how we can project them. So that's my interest. I saw a comment. It's very interesting, influenced by their perceptions, and similarly the way one perceives you, yes, is also heavily influenced by the perception that build. Ultimately, perception is reality, right? How you see yourself is how you are, and how others see you is how you are to them. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's an unlimited field of study. So second. Right. So we'll look at what values. We'll spend a little bit of time on that. I think that's a valuable exercise for us to do. So what I'll do is I have this list of values. I think it's not exhaustive, but it's pretty close. If you should have a notepad in front of you. What you can do, and if this was an in-person thing, I would have given this to you as a workbook where you could have circled things that you really resonate with, and then you can do a second pass and recircle the ones that really, really resonate with you. The point is you need to get to just 5 maximum. So go through the list one pass, see what resonates, look at that list again, and bring it down to 5. So take a couple of minutes, write down the ones that are your values. I can also share some probing questions if anybody would need help. Some of the probing questions, again, it's completely using the gut as an indicator, right? I feel really disturbed when someone does something that doesn't sit right with me, because blank is very important to me, and that blank will be a value. I feel really disturbed when someone doesn't listen to someone when they're like talking and sharing, because empathy is very important to me. Listening is very important to me. connecting is very important to me. So those are ways you can like sort of tease out your values.
Bala, would you mind repeating that question again, please?
I feel really disturbed when someone does blank, because blank is very important to me. And again, these are, unfortunately, these are things that, I mean, in this room, yes, I'm sure a lot of us have put in conscious time and effort towards, similar things in introspecting and finding out things about ourselves. But usually there's not something we actively think about, right? We are mostly just chugging along with whatever we have accumulated over the years. But it is good to do some spring cleaning, doing some assessment, opening up some rooms that have remained locked for multiple years, seeing what's inside. So this is one of those exercises that you can do. Again, because it's something that we haven't done consciously and put time towards, it will take some extra digging. So don't worry if you're not able to get to your 5 values. I would encourage you to think about this after the session, if you feel like
Bala, would this be there on the folder for
Yes,
later reference? Okay, thanks.
I got my 5.
Say that again.
I got the 5.
You got the 5. Excellent. Swati, would you like to share with us?
Yeah, so it took me a couple of times of reading the list, but so accuracy, perfection, loyalty, fairness, and reliability. And there's an overlap. I mean, some of these words are really overlap of each other.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. So if you do feel like that overlap is happening, then pick the one that you resonate with more. Remove the one that you feel like is a repetition, and then do another introspection and figure out what else can fit. I see some people have raised their hands. You can just unmute and speak. Go for it.
Bala, I'm just sort of trying to make headway with this list. So this is a lot about what we value as on today, or what we aspire to. Sorry, I just wanted to be clear.
This is what you are. This is present.
This is what you think you are right now.
Yeah. This is what you think you are right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, the question that you can use to tease that out is, when this happens, I feel really upset. When blank happens, I'm upset because blank is important to me. That's when I said, right, these are things that don't sit right with you. When you do things that are against your values, your gut has a lot of things to say. So using that as an indicator, we can find out what our values are.
Also, like by just bringing it back to 5, the question in my head is, okay, if only one of the 2 was possible, what would I be?
Yeah.
Right. For example, like, so.
That's another reflection question. I always struggle what to do. I always struggle to make a decision, or I struggle to make a decision between blank and blank. I always struggle to make a decision between spontaneity and planning out everything. I think that's going to be my lifelong struggle. I can't, because left and right brain, right? They're constantly just fighting with
balancing the dichotomy. I have my 5, but yeah.
Awesome.
I'd like to check with you how family can be a value. I mean, it can be something that we can rely on or depend on, but how is it a value really?
You value your time with your family. So, for example, I'll give you a real life scenario, which is I'll tell someone, hey, you need to stay back until 9 and finish this and give it to me. The person there is like, no, I need to go spend time with my family. That's one of my values. If I don't do that and I listen and I sit at till 9 o'clock and finish this work, I'm going to feel discomfort. I'm not going to like the fact that I was asked to go against my family values to sit and finish work. So that is again something that helps us draw very clear boundaries. In this case, it's family orientation, being oriented towards your family, putting them first, valuing them in your life.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Check the time. Okay, we're at 8 o'clock. So we have some ground to cover. So I'm gonna I will share this, but for now I will have to close this
Yeah, I think one more
exercise.
question again, things like prosperity, etc. I mean, I may be interested and keen to become prosperous, of course, but I mean, is it a value or not? Again, I'm just thinking in my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, you may choose to go ahead right now. I can even connect with you later.
No worries, no worries. That is what it's meant to do. How you perceive it. What are the images and the structures that are forming in your head when you read this? That is what this list is for. We can't come up with an operational definition for each of these things because based on our life experiences and who we are all taking things from each of these words. The way I define prosperity will be very different from how you define prosperity. So again, this is what you pick up is your value.
Okay, sure.
Great. So we've looked at our values a little bit. If anybody would like to share some of your values, that would be great. Any other volunteers?
I can share.
Yes, please.
Sorry, just getting this. In no order of preference: compassion, fairness, learning, courage, and integrity.
Very nice. Thank you, Ashwin.
And also, I think, but I just want to clarify, right? Like with the questions that are coming up. So for me, when I was trying to pick these values, I think for me, my understanding was that there's a forever intent to work with them. And that is where I find my happiness, or like when I function with them, I find my happiness. But there are definitely times when I have not lived up to it. But that's a part of me is like really, really killed in that moment, right? Like, so it's not like कि हमेशा कर लिया है, but the strive to do it forever is what I define as like my
The
values.
value. You value it. You are giving it that first place in your life when it and as you said, it kills a part of you. That's, if I heard you right, that's the gut, right?
Or breaks
That's the
relationships.
gut, having a lot of
Or breaks relationships when you stick
yes,
with those values. That's like just a side comment.
Again, the breaking of the relationship, what caused you to bring that up as something that affects you is your gut reacting to it when the relationship breaks. It's again, you can't, there are people who relationship breaks, it breaks, I don't care, but it's again your value is being compromised there and your gut is saying this is not right, which is what is causing that. Okay, so we'll quickly look at some reflection questions for strengths and skills, right? These are a little easier, so we got the values bit out of the way. Those are a little bit more abstract. This will help you uncover things that you've done before. And the thing that I like doing is whenever we think about, hey, what are you good at, right? I don't know about you, but I used to have this habit of like, no, nothing. I'm not good at anything. Whatever has happened because of chance, because other people were nice. I'm not good at anything. This was I had my little moment, and what really helped was going back into the past and picking up these positive instances where I've actually done it. Of course, at the risk of sounding like a motivational poster, you have survived 100% of your bad days, right? You've had some innate skill or strength that helped you overcome whatever barrier that you were faced with. So these reflection questions help you uncover that. So when you think about your most successful project, what is the most important team role you ever fulfilled, and why is it important? When faced with an overcoming obstacle, what's your go-to skill? And what are strengths that others acknowledge in me? So here you're getting like a total 360-degree view, not just about yourself, but how you have heard others perceive you, or the strengths that others perceive in you. Just a few minutes on this, and what we'll do after this is just the first step of this. So take 1 minute, quickly write down some small notes and words here and there, because we need to distill this a little further. Yeah. So the questions that you've answered before, right? There will be some trends, or there will be some themes. So this will help you tease those out. What are some strengths and skills that came up over and over again in the biggest challenge that you faced and the best team role that you fulfilled? Chances are that you have relied on like 3 to 5 of the same skills and strengths throughout most of your challenging situations. These are some questions for you to tease those out, and see what really goes into your strengths and skills. The fourth question is my favorite, because like we mentioned before, when you start looking for a job, and when you start thinking about how I should frame my resume, and my profile for this job, that's when we really start pulling out all the stops, right? We start bringing up those words, and I would encourage you to put yourself in the same mind space, just so that you can think a little bit more objectively about your strengths and your skills.
Your previous 4 questions were also very close to the kind of interview questions you get at times.
Yeah. There's a difference between you answering it to someone who you would like to employ you versus you asking it to yourself. So you have the opportunity to be a lot more honest, maybe brutal with yourself. And once this is done, we'll finally look at the last piece, which is our passions. I believe this is what you should be able to tap into the most easily, right? Like I said before, these are things that put you in flow. You get energized from doing this. It doesn't drain you. It's an activity that after you do 3 hours of it, you are still ready to go. You still have energy to do it. For me, it is facilitation in a lot of cases. For me, it's theater. For me, it's storytelling. It's all of these artistic endeavors that I have. A lot of times when I'm feeling uninspired, I will go and spend 30 minutes doing one of that. And even though it is an activity that expends energy, I'll come back refreshed. So that's a passion. That's an easy way to spot your passion. How many of you have heard of flow state? It's a positive psychology. Yes. So these are things that put you in flow. So if you have, and not if you have definitely engaged in activities that have put you in flow. So think about what has put you in flow. And then and if there are activities, think about what about that was appealing to you. So that's how you can distill and figure out your passions. There is a resource for that as well. I'll just quickly share it, because after passions is kind of my favorite part, which is the dark side of everybody. People generally refer to it as weaknesses, but that's not how I like looking at it. And so these are some ways that you can spot your passions. What would I do with my time if money weren't an issue? Traveling, trying new cuisines, meditating, working with animals in a shelter. Yes, please. I'm sorry. So these are things that you would do if money weren't an issue. What are your favorite activities? What sort of people am I drawn to? I'm drawn to artistic types, right? People who are like the free spirits who have decided to unplug from capitalism and the endeavor of earning money. Like, I'm drawn to people like that. So what are some things that I can understand about myself based on all of these things? I'll give you a clue to what your passions are. Yeah. And this is the second part that I was telling you about. Once you've asked yourself these questions, what is the common thread? What are some themes that you can see? What are some, what about these activities puts you in flow? So I've given two examples, right? The passion number one, baking and coaching basketball. What is common between both of them? They're both sports. I mean, one is a sport, one is an activity. You like working with raw ingredients, food and people to create something incredible, a dessert or a team. Those are the passions behind the passionate activities. You like working with people. You like creating a finished product from raw ingredients. You like taking things from 1 to 100. Those are all possible passions that you could put down for yourself. Okay. Anything so far? Questions, comments? Not from you. But anything so far? Okay, cool. Everybody still with me? Yes, awesome. Let me know if you would like a change of pace or something else. Actually, yeah, I would like a change of pace. I want to show you some of my favorite ads, which these are ads that really drive home the point of how branding is more on the softer emotional aspects rather than the hard bottom line and top line and profitability and things like that, especially for companies, because trust is ultimately what we're trying to build. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thunderstorm and lightning is helping Godfish. Yeah. Got it. Okay, so this is an ad from HSBC. In here also, right?
The English believe it's a slur on your host's food if you don't clear your plate. Whereas the Chinese feel you're questioning their generosity if you do. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge, which is why we have local banks staffed by local people in over 80 countries across the globe. HSBC, the world's local bank.
So this was back then when HSBC was the world's local bank. This is when this is when China and other Southeast Asian countries were opening up and seeing this incursion of international banks, which is why they had a British guy there. And what they played to was, we have local staff in our banks who can really understand your needs. We have better context. They didn't go with, hey, we're a better bank. We offer better interest rates. We do this, we do that. It's a very intangible, emotional thing that they decided to hook on to. In the same vein, you this one. Can everyone see my screen? Yes? Okay.
Yes, yes, Bala.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember this ad. Oh my God.
Magic body control. Nothing about mileage, nothing about efficiency, nothing. Just shows a chicken and magic body control. And this, like Swati, this was an ad that you remember, right? It left an impact, even though it had nothing, really concrete or tangible. Very intangible. Okay, this has left an impression on me. Great. So it's fun, nice ad, fun ad, right? The second part of this is what Jaguar replied.
See? It's just like a Mercedes. Huh?
That hashtag goes so, right? Good to be bad. It has, it really is just, it's the cool bad boy image that Jaguar wanted to put out, and they did it really well. The last part of this is a response that Mercedes gave to this Jaguar ad, which is honestly not worth showing. That's my personal opinion. I will share the link with you later on if you I mean, I'll share it with you now if you'd like to check it out. But yeah, I think Jaguar very clearly won the battle of brands in this. So okay, that was a little bit about brands and how they were really nailing the emotional aspect of it. Now coming back to our brand identity and our positive core. And this is I would like to take a whole other session on this if people are so inclined. This is where we examine our shadow and our persona, right? We've all looked at the positive aspects, our values, our strengths, our passions, and all of that. But as is the case with everything that's in the light, there are some things that are in the darkness, which is what Carl Jung, famous psychologist, has framed as your shadow. So everybody has these two aspects, right? You have a persona. These are things that you have said you are because it has given you something positive in life before, right? When you were a kid, maybe the teacher said, you know what, this student is super diligent, right? And who when we are forming our personalities at such a young age, that positive reinforcement will make us repeat that behavior over and over again. We want that validation. We want it when we're growing up, and we still continue to want it. So that becomes our persona. This is me. These are the characteristics and behaviors that has given me something in life: the attention, the affection, the opportunities that I want. But in the process of saying that I am this, what has happened is you have simultaneously said, I am not this to certain other things. Right? So if you are diligent, then what has gone into your shadow is the fact that sometimes you're lazy. And that laziness has gone into your shadow wrapped with so much fear and guilt and shame that you become so obsessed with trying to make sure that it doesn't come out, that when there are situations that trigger you, that causes you to lose control and your persona slips, because the word persona is mask in Greek. When your persona slips, that shadow really comes out, right? So this is the rough idea of what a shadow and persona is. And so why I bring this up is we have certain things that we think are weaknesses within us. I'm here to say that it's not really a weakness. It's just a characteristic within us that needs some slight adjustment in how it is expressed. That's it. And a lot of our strengths can come from our shadows as well. So this is just a little bit food for thought. It's something that will take some time to deep dive into, but I just wanted to leave you with a little bit of this. Of course, very happy to take a full session just on shadow persona, how to look at your shadow, how to squeeze the positives out of your shadow and really draw strengths from it. There is an exercise for that as well. So let me know on the group if you are interested, and we can definitely go into that. I want to pause for a bit. Is everyone good? Any questions? Anything that anybody would like to share? Okay, great. So now we've finished our brand identity, right? We've looked at what makes us us. We've kind of acknowledged that there are some weaknesses that we have, and we could work on them if required. We'll now move into our brand aspiration, right? The best way to really tease out your brand aspiration is to ask or complete. Again, this is a complete the sentence, fill in the blank activity. I want to be known as the blank who can blank. Right? There are multiple ways that you can do this. My favorite way is go back to your most recent feedback where you got positive feedback from someone you really admire, or your most recent 360-degree assessment where people really brought out your strengths. Right? These are things that you feel, oh, I'm this, I didn't know that. This is a pleasant surprise. That can be part of your aspiration. I want to be known as the trustworthy collaborator between sales, engineering, customer support, who can do projects that involve multiple departments coming together. It's like I want to be known as the people person, right? I want to be known as the person who can really get people to come together and work on something. I want to be known as the person who can make things happen. You can put whatever it is, and I would really encourage you not to evaluate whether you are that or not. Short answer to that is you are, right? You have the muscle. It's just about exercising it. We all have these muscles for all of these wonderful things that we want to be. It's just that sometimes the muscle needs a little more reps. So you want to be known as the blank who can blank. So you can have multiple of these. Go ahead, write a couple down. Does anybody have any brand aspirations that they'd like to share? Declaring is one of the first steps that you make towards actually realizing things that you want to be. Yes, Alexis, I see you've unmuted. Please.
Drawing a blank at the moment. Lot to think about.
Yeah, this is 2 hours for this. This is actually something that I teach as a 12-hour thing, over 4 days, 3 hours per day. So I totally hear you. This is something that will take a little longer, but also happy to have an informal group later on. Maybe we can huddle over another Zoom call and do one of those sessions where we appreciate each other's strengths and values, and create that sort of encouraging environment where we can actually delve into it and feel a little bit more at ease rather than sticking to this 2-hour deadline.
Actually, it would be good to see how each one in this group perceives the other person.
I'm going to do
talking about perception.
Yes, I'm going to share that brand perception survey link, right? And or I could put it on the WhatsApp group. You all can create your own versions and send it out. But I don't know how willing people would be to fill out 50 or 50 plus of those brand perception surveys for each one. So let's think about how else we can structure that. Right. Okay. So now that some of us, we have some idea about our brand aspiration, we'll move on to the next part, which is the environment, right? Projection will come after this, but because like I've said before, what we say and what we do will depend on who is perceiving us. There is someone in my workplace whose project I want to get involved in. That project requires a lot of accuracy, requires a lot of playing by the rules and following the SOPs. There's no point if I go and show this person my creative side, right? I can be like a very nice people person and just try to impress them with these skills. Maybe they'll get impressed, but not in the context of them bringing me on board for that particular project that I want to be on. So if you can map what you're projecting based on your brand environment, that'll give you most bang for your buck. That'll give you exactly what you want. So what we'll do is we'll go into a little bit of detail in mapping our brand environment. So I have a bunch of questions here that will help you think through what this brand environment looks like. So at your workplace, what groups and departments do you work with? And then you can ask what departments or groups, what projects would you like to work with? The third question is your brand environment question. Who are the influencers in these departments? Doesn't necessarily have to be the boss, right? These are the people who can make things happen. And this is also this word influencers is also something that I really like looking at, because we have I also work with Orglens, which is the organizational network analysis platform, which looks at these informal networks within organizations, and you can really see that a lot of these influencers are not the CEOs and the who's who of the organizations. These are the people who fly under the radar, who have really strong informal networks, and these are the guys who can make things happen. So think about who those people are in your organization. Of course, the first instinct would be, yes, this project is headed by this, I should go talk to this person. But a lot of the times they are not the ones who are in charge of influencing decisions. It'll be someone else. Next, you can think about what is most important to these influencers. Like I said, if the project requires diligence, accuracy, playing by the rules, following instructions, there's no point in me taking my creative side or my thinking out of the box side there, right? I need to think about what I need to show from their perspective. And the final thing that we really need to distill down to is what are the qualities that these influencers look for?
So Bala I don't have an answer to the second question from my work perspective, because current scenario, current situation, I can't choose who do I or which department do I want to work with.
Okay. Are there things that you would like to do differently at your work, some other projects or something else that you would like to get involved in?
Yeah, that's there.
Yeah, so think about what projects you would like to get involved in that you're not currently on. That's what groups generally mean, what project groups or whatever. We're again looking at, hey, I want to be there. I'm not there yet. I want to be there. I want to be involved in that. So think about some situations or some things which you would like to be involved in. And then think about the influences in that, and then think about what qualities those influences are looking for.
Okay.
Questions, comments?
Hi Bala, Amit here.
Yes.
The only, not even question, the only thought which comes in mind is, so when you're trying to look for the groups, the projects, the teams where you want to be and aspire with whom you want to work with, does it really correlates to brand environment, or you're more thinking it from the perspective of building your experience, and it might have a very, very thin correlation to the brand as such? Is the only thought which comes in my mind. So any thoughts there?
Yeah, it will build experience, right? And what you get from experience is strengths, skills, and some knowledge,
Yes.
some learning. All of that can be
Agree.
rechanneled into your brand.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it answers. It's just that in my mind, I'm still thinking that because brand, I'm correlating with the earlier slide which you showed, which
Mhm.
had some characteristics in terms of what you think you are as of now. And
That's your
if I
identity.
correlate that with, yes, and if I
Mhm.
correlate with this question,
Mm.
my identity ideally would not change basis the work or the experience I aspire
Of course, your
to
identity
gain.
does not change. Like I said, it'll have it. There's no change happening. You are accumulating skills and strengths into your core identity. Then we are very consciously making the choice of what am I shining the spotlight on based on who is looking at it.
Okay.
Then the next part to this would be like looking at your industry as a whole. Similar questions: which group or industry would you like to be associated with? Who are the influencers? What's important to them? What are the qualities they look for? We'll just do it for the workplace for now. So that's what we've thought about for a while. And by doing this exercise, we're able to really tease out our brand environment. DHL. Oh yeah, the DHL Express ad. Thanks, Alexis. Alongside the dark side shadow explanation will be useful. Of course, happy to do that. So please let me know when you would like that, and more than happy to make that happen.
So
Once
Bala, just a quick reflection statement. On this last slide, and without sounding in any way political, but I recall the times when the current government got elected in 14 and also got re-elected in 19. And I'm obviously referring to the central government. They are credited in some way. We also acknowledge that their own brand positioning vis-a-vis other political parties has been very strong. And I've just been, in a way looking at examples which are, one of this is what I'm sharing. And it's also it could also be that, let's say, if any one of us were to be making a presentation, it is like knowing what your audience wants from you. So to that extent, I think this exercise, I found it to be quite valuable, because you don't exist in isolation. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Very, very important reflection point. Yes, you're constantly, everything you do is constantly being perceived, right? So the entire point of this is be more aware of the fact that this is happening, whether you like it or not. Being more aware will give you more control, and in that way you can sort of make a path towards liking what you're putting out there. It's you're not being a helpless victim. Oh, everybody around me is just thinking these wrong things about me. Oh, I can't do anything about it. It's never the case. You always do have some power or some say. Yeah, we don't exist in isolation. Precisely. I want to quickly also, yeah, so we'll also go into telling a brand story, right? So that's the first step towards projecting. Right, so we've looked at our identity, our aspiration, who we are, what we want to be. We've looked at who's perceiving us. How do we tailor what we do and say based on who is perceiving us? Right, again, the whole point is we're doing this from a space of authenticity, because if you remember the framework, it comes from our identity. It's a very solid foundation that we've laid for ourselves. These are all things that we already have. We're just paying a little more attention to how it's coming, how we're putting it out there. And this is something that we can do for everything that we say and do, right? Whatever we say and do forms a part of our brand story. And a good brand story has these three elements. Relevance. Whatever brand story you're telling to your audience, it is relevant to them. They know you for a certain thing, and that is very much in line with their context. It goes back to the creativity versus following the rules example. They know you for a particular thing that they want, so they will know you as a relevant resource when the time comes. Consistency. This has come up again and again. Like, you can't just do this once and then never follow through again. You need to do this over and over again, build that consistency so that they will remember you when the time comes. Otherwise, you're just a one-hit wonder. There's no point. They're like, this person won't deliver all the time. The consistency is pretty bad. So I don't really think they are someone who is able to, do things accurately. So you won't have an opportunity to pursue that particular project. And the last one is credibility. Right? If what you and this comes as a sort of natural progression to relevance and consistency, right? If you are able to deliver what you said and you're doing it consistently and the output is good, they will trust you when the time comes. You have followed through, you've done it over and over again, and you've done it in a good way. It gives you credibility as well. So any good brand story, if you examine any of the brands out there, Tata being the main one that keeps coming up when the word trust is said, they have been able to nail these three. They were relevant, they were consistent, and they ended up being the trusted person that people went to for whatever their needs are. And this is a brand story, something that is created over time, because you need to build that consistency. But for our purpose, we'll write something, we'll write an elevator pitch, which in my mind is a short brand story, right? Elevator pitch being it's something that you can quickly communicate to someone in less than 30 seconds, because the story is that a very busy CEO asked someone who was pitching to him to take a ride with him in the elevator, and he said, you have the time until I reach my floor. After that, I'm not going to listen to you. So how do you quickly get your point across? use for and to get your brand story across is what this elevator pitch is. So I have a simple formula, right? I help X achieve Y by doing Z. X is your target group, your brand environment. Y is the value that you bring, which is your brand identity, part of your brand identity. And Z also is your brand identity. How do you do this? How do you make this happen? Sorry, Y is your USP, not really a brand identity. It's what value you bring into the picture. Why does this target group or this target audience come back to you? Because you're consistently, credibly, reliably able to deliver Y. An example, I help CEOs achieve business excellence by diagnosing and solving vague and unstructured people problems. You can have multiple of these, right? That's the whole point. If X can change to whatever target audience that you would like to speak to or be relevant to, you can have as many brand elevator pitches as you would like, as many X's that you have. Does anyone want to give it a shot? Or if anyone already has, would you like to share? Everybody's like holding on to their elevator pitch.
No, Bala, mine would be quite similar to what you have shown as an example. And, I was just voicing out in my mind, so let me attempt it here. So I help business leaders achieve productivity enhancement by solving people problems.
Yeah.
But I quite liked your XYZ formula reminding us of algebra lessons, but this time, this time for some good effect.
Yeah. I'm sorry, algebra wasn't fun for you. It was fun for me, which is why I did this.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? It is able to bring everything together in a very easy to remember way. I've seen for a lot of the people that I've run this session for, the elevator pitch that they shared in class was their LinkedIn byline the next day. Right? It's very relevant. It's a very quick way for people to get their point across. It's foolproof. Yeah, it's quite foolproof. Thank you, Poonam. It's not mine. I'm not going to claim credit for it, but it's just one of the simplest ones that I found. And if you can even structure the way you speak to have all these three elements when you are pitching yourself for a particular project or formula, without beating around the bush, you're quickly able to shine the spotlight on everything that's good and the value you bring and who you're for. It's one of the most powerful ways to project your brand in less than 30 seconds. Right. Okay, so we have 10 more minutes, right? So what I would like to do is really think through some of the practical ways we can start projecting our brands, even starting tomorrow. Right? All of these are good. You can update your LinkedIn with your elevator pitch and all of that. But how do you really bring all of this to life? How do you make sure that people are really able to start seeing all of these things that you would like to project? Right? So this is one of the things that I like to really think through, right? So you look back at your brand aspiration. I want to be known as the blank who can blank. What are the 3 words that you would really like to project starting tomorrow? Would anyone like to offer up a couple of brand aspiration words? Then we can use this table to really tease that out. Yeah, so I've listed some of the most common projection opportunities that we'll have. Another part of this exercise is we quite painstakingly go through every single opportunity or place that you are perceived in the workplace and otherwise. So LinkedIn, emails, team calls, conference calls, one-on-ones, water cooler conversations, parking lot interactions, right? Everybody, we all go into these like really these deep granular details of all of the ways and places in which people are able to see us and form an opinion of us. I've picked the 5 most impactful ones according to me: meetings, presentations, team interactions, mails, and conferences. So when you think about the 3 words that you would really like to project, right? And then you can start putting down these possible actions. So for example, if you're one of the words that you want to start projecting, one of your brand aspiration words that you would really like to shine the spotlight on, if it is structured thinking, right? I want to come across as a person who can think in a very structured manner. What is one thing that I could do in my next meeting that let people know that, hey, I do have the capacity to be a structured thinker? Any suggestions? Yes, you may increase the list of projection opportunities, of course. These are the 5 that I feel are most impactful. Yes, Anurag, you can. But yeah, if you want to come across as a structured thinker in meetings, one way.
Maybe present your thoughts in idea clusters rather than being random about it.
Yeah. 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll be back. Okay. Yes, Rajneesh, yes. Presenting your points in idea clusters, fantastic. One of the simple ways that I've I felt this like this was a cheating move a lot of the times is be the person who ends up collecting all of the talking points at the end and then puts across the action points. Because a lot of meetings, what happens, we discuss, everything is in the air, we assume everybody has gotten what they need from the meeting, and then you realize nothing has moved. So if you can be that person who is giving structure not only to your own thoughts but to the group as well, then you can come across as a really structured, methodical thinker, right? So that's one of the ways. Anything else? We don't have to work with structured thinking. If anybody wants to offer up one of the words that they would like to project going forward, we can work with that as well. Then you can actually get some actionables from this.
So let's say problem solver.
Problem solvers. So you want to come across as someone who is a problem solver. What are some ways that you can do that in mails, meetings, presentations, team interactions, anything? I have few I can share, but if you would like to take a crack at it first.
Yeah, so I think mails and even presentations, even meetings where you have, let's say in my case, there is always an opportunity to be meeting a client, possible potential client, and in my language itself, in my approach itself, whether I am seeking an appointment or when I am opening the conversation, or I want to go deep dive into the the conversation in the hope that the client will open up and share an opportunity. If I continue to build on the element of presenting myself as a problem solver, then I feel there is consistency, and it could at some point in time, if not immediately, will have a buy-in eventually.
Yeah, agreed. The question here is, how do you come across as problem solver?
Yeah.
Yeah, the short answer is very simple. If you articulate the problem, 50% of it is solved. Correct?
Oh.
Yeah. So if in the meeting, if you are the person who takes initiative in rephrasing, paraphrasing, helping people sort through their thoughts and their questions. Give me 1 second. Krishna, can you please, he's calling again. Keep the phone with you. He's calling again. Thanks. Yeah. So if you just make that one shift and you take ownership of articulating the problem, you're immediately the problem solver. You immediately start building your credibility as the person of, hey, last time in this meeting, we were all stuck and we were all going in circles, but Rajneesh really came in and changed all of that. Right? If articulating the problem is 50% of solving it. So that's one of the ways that you can do it.
No, that's a nice one.
I have a couple of words, right? Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite things to fall back on, where if I get into this closed space of trying to wrangle the problem, just go back to, am I even articulating it correctly? Have I really gotten my problem statement down to a T? So here are some that I like, which is creative, insightful, intuitive, clear. Right? I want to come across as clear. That's something that I've really worked on. Some of us might have this tendency of losing our train of thought in between, and then ending up with saying a lot more than you initially intended to. That's something that I had recognized in myself a couple of years ago. And then I decided I really want to be the clear person who's able to structure their thoughts and give real value to every meeting, presentation, or interaction that I have. So my favorite way that I've immediately put this into action is actually emails, right? In a lot of my emails, there's no more beating around the bush. Of course, the other side of this is I come across as kind of rude sometimes, which is the feedback that I've gotten. Again, something that I need to work on. But asking questions using bullet points, very simple to do, very easy to put into practice immediately. But immediately the brand that you're able to project is, wow, this person is super clear. They have their stuff sorted in their heads. This is someone that I'll go to for really thinking through my problems. Presentations, the way I structured my slides were not great. Then I came across the Minto pyramid model. If any of you have heard of that, happy to share resources about that. It's something that a McKinsey consultant came up with. It's a model in which you can structure information on a slide so that when the person reads it, they're immediately able to get what the takeaway from it is. Otherwise, we've all been subjected to those text heavy slides where you look at it and there is a graph on one side and you really don't know what you're looking at, right? So if you're able to bring in these tiny tweaks in the way you present your information, and everything that leaves your inbox or leaves your mouth, that will really help start to build your brand in a more conscious, more directed way. So this is one of the examples. I will share the empty template for this. so that you can go back and think about how you will do it, right? So with that, we are at 9 o'clock. I'm quite proud of myself in at keeping the time as questions, any sort of any thoughts that people, apprehensions that you have in following this. Of course, I want to reiterate the two things that you can take away from this. One being, one definitely being that model, right? That branding framework model that I shared in the beginning. Identity, aspiration, projection, and then perception on the side. The second one, which is very easy to do, is your elevator pitch formula. So if you take these two things, then target achieved for this session. So that was developing your personal brand. Of course, 2 hours is not at all enough for it, but I'm hoping it gave you a rough idea about what the journey looks like, and hopefully got you started on the first couple of steps on how you can start doing it. I would really encourage you to change your LinkedIn heading using your elevator pitch. That's something that I'm putting out there as optional homework for you. So do try it out and let me know how that goes. Yes, no problem. Yeah, everybody who's dropping off, bye. Thank you for joining. Everybody else who's here, questions, anything that I can help you think through, sort through, more than happy to take that now. Or if it's been a lot of information that you need to process, ping me any time of the day. I am happy to help.
Bala, just one quick question going back. So just wanted to know whether is it more important to look at how you perceive yourself, or what others perceive of you while building your brand? What should we look at more?
You need to look at both. Yeah, you need to look at both. Of course, your self-perception is the most important thing, right? Not just for your brand, even just for your being, and whether you are living a fully realized, self-directed life. Your self-perception is the first, key to that puzzle. The second one, of course, is your perception, how other people perceive you. That, like I said, is a litmus test. Is it in line? Is there any sort of alignment, or is it totally out of whack? Then there is something fundamentally wrong that I need to go back and really check and introspect and see where I'm going wrong with this. So the answer is
sometimes,
both. Order, of course, is.
Sometimes we could also be overly critical about ourselves, where we might not be, completely right of how we are perceiving ourselves, right?
Yeah. That again, it calls for some really radical honesty with yourself. Another thing that I used to do was go to people that like you, right? Because if you know that you are overly critical of yourself, go to people them for their opinion, just to give you a little bit of fuel and energy to look at yourself in a more balanced way. That of course is starting
right.
Look at what's working and then use that energy to fix what's not working.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Of course.
I don't have a question, but just a thought. I think thanks for the session, because I started with a lot of conflict in my head, right? I still have some, but it is a very non-controversial way of setting up your brand. It's essentially not branding yourself, but being yourself, in just being more explicit about being yourself. I think that's how I've made the connection with it. So
yeah. And just an addendum to that, we tend to see ourselves as very static and unchanging depending on the circumstance. And I've heard this a lot, where changing what you portray depending on your surroundings is seen as inauthentic, which I completely disagree with that. we're all built to survive in our environment, and if our environment changes, it's more than even from an evolutionary biology perspective, it's for your best functioning and your best performance. There's absolutely nothing morally wrong with that or inauthentic about it.
No, I agree. Like the whole conversation around
You all have it.
authenticity.
You all have the capacity to do that.
Yeah. But thanks for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. If there's nothing else, then we shall close for the day. Thank you so much. This has been a great session. Thank you for all being.
Thank you, Bala.
And
a very thought-provoking session.
Yeah, I can see your face, Alexis. You have a lot of thoughts going in your head, but yeah.
That's largely because I'm usually a very quiet person, and I'll give you an example. I met up with my team of 20 trainers recently for lunch after 2 years of being work from home, and my team has largely changed over the last year and a half. We've had some exits, so we've hired new people who've not met in person. And the first thing they told me was, we thought you're a very talkative person because you're always talking on the call and stuff like that. But I was actually one of the quietest in the room. So it's perception.
Yeah.
Another time in my previous organization, they used to do these tests for people to move up into a different profile. And whole bunch of people, I think 100 odd people sat for that test. And they came out, and I was walking to the elevator, and one of them said, "Hey, Alexa, you set a very hard paper." I was like, "What are you talking about?" "No, that test that you set up was really difficult." It's like, I had nothing to do with it. So, so they're like, "No, we see you sitting with that team, so we thought that you're the one who set it because it was an extremely hard one." It's like, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're the person who's ensuring quality. That's one way to rebrand that, right?
So, yeah, so my thought is typically running around, how do I, change that perception? Because it seems to be a constant everywhere I go, where people think very differently about me when I'm a completely different person. So.
Is it causing you any problems?
No, it's not creating a problem, but they think of me as something else versus what I actually am. So,
I mean, I'm like of the opinion that if it's not causing you any real pain, why bother? we have so many other things to do rather than trying to correct perceptions of everyone we meet. Again, this is just food for thought. Up to you. Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you, Bala. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you. Yes. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.